In your mind, say to yourself, I am more than my physical body. Because I am more than physical matter, I can perceive that which is greater than the physical world. I deeply desire to expand, to experience, to know, to understand, to control, to use such greater energies and energy systems as may be beneficial and constructive to me and to those who follow me. I deeply desire the help and cooperation, the assistance, the understanding of those individuals whose wisdom, development, and experience are equal to or greater than my own. I ask their guidance and protection from any influence or any source that might provide me with less than my stated desires.
Do not know all the answers to the questions about reality. Do not claim to know the ultimate truth about life. I seek that which has been made hidden. As a part of a family of explorers of consciousness, I'm the void one.
Welcome to Lighting the Void.
Broadcasting live from a shack on a hill in the mossy creek bottoms of Cane Creek, Arkansas. This is Lighting the Void live here on the Fringe FM. I'm so sorry about the late start, guys. Little drama had to deal with. Very stressful, but it's over. We're starting the show. We're going to continue getting deeper into the tree of life, a very complex but interesting subject, at least I think. I myself am very passionate about the subject. It is the esoteric, the Western esoteric map of consciousness in the universe, and make no mistake about it. And I say this with the utmost respect, but make no mistake about it, it's not a scientific fact. It's definitely not. But it has been used and traversed for so long now that the drama hasn't ended. I'll have to fix that sound at break. I apologize about the background noise, but that is my raggedy air conditioner in the shack making some noise. But anyways, I want to say this too before we jump right into because we're gonna have to jump right into this. This subject is near and dear to my heart, so I would broadcast about it anyways, regardless. I know it doesn't draw in a lot of traffic. I know it bores some people, but I have to express it. So with that being said, for all of you that spend your time with us live, I really, really appreciate you a lot. It's wonderful to have you here. And for the podcast listeners, for listening too, same thing. But I got to give, for the live listeners, I give a little special badge, right? Because there's so many different things you could be doing. And I know this. I know there's all kinds of stuff you can be doing right now. So thanks for spending time with me and going through this with me. Now, where we left off last night, we were talking about the different. So she's done an introduction about the tree, basically a very complex introduction about the tree, the supernals, and the paths on the tree and things like that. She's going to get into each Sephiroth and the energies, and that's where I believe that in this book things get very beautiful in their description. But before we get to that place, before we start, I guess you could say traversing that realm, realize that all of magic and the Western systems of magic, specifically everything except for chaos magic, even though chaos magic uses a lot of stuff from the Golden Dawn, but everything from Wicca to modern day witchcraft, to all of the stuff comes from the Golden Dawn. The Golden Dawn isn't the beginning of magic. The Golden Dawn was a magical order that was very secret in 1888 that was revealed eventually by Crowley, Israel Regardie, and then, of course, Dion Fortune and things like that. Magic has been practiced since the beginning of time. But what we know, what we can say is since probably the Renaissance, or even before then, people have been using the Tree of Life as sort of a grammar system, if you will, or a glyph or a map of consciousness, a map of realms of consciousness, a map of the realms of the universe and the emanations of creation. So according to all occultists, everything in existence can be explained and categorized and corresponded to these energies. And if you're watching the video, whether you're watching it live or later, all of the what's up, Juan? Sorry, man, I'm late, bro. I can't believe you're even here. All of these energies can come from this tree. So even flowers, animals, everything. Like, I'll give you an example. Everything comes from this tree. Today I got into a little drama. That's why we're late. I got angry. I got really angry. That energy, which it wasn't balanced, let's say it was unbalanced, that energy lies and came from Qabalah, right there where you see the red sphere where the pentagram is. And so if you're ever wondering why people use pentagrams when they protect themselves in the lesser banishing ritual of the pentagram, it's because that comes from Qabalah. Qabalah is severity and action, war. It protects you. So that's where it comes from. And they start at the bottom left of the star, which is the Earth pentagram, because we're in Earth, right? But anger itself, even the vibration of like anger and action, the vibration of severity, the vibration of just, let's just say, severity, Qabalah. When it gets so unbalanced, we become angry. And sometimes there's no such thing as, like, people say there's no such thing as healthy anger, and that's not true. That's not true, in my opinion. There is mildness. So the Christ-like energy is severe. Let's just say, for instance, I'll give you an example. And the best way to give an example is like the tarot, right? So when you look at the tarot cards and you read like the Five of Pentacles or whatever, the Five of Pentacles, or not the Five of, let's just use a different, let's say the Five of Swords. So the Five of Swords shows you what, like that energy in an unbalanced way, right? All just over there on this side in the five, that energy in the intellect, what it does, right? So when you mix kind of like fire with air or anger with your mind and creates this big ass fire, the card pretty much shows people fighting and somebody winning and somebody's hurt. But if you pull out, like, say, the Six of Pentacles, for instance, the Six of Pentacles shows a balanced, or like even the Six of Swords, it shows the balanced energy of that element. And I brought the tarot with me, but we're going to get into the patterns of the tree, all right? The first thing I'm going to do is turn off this loud-ass air conditioner. And it has been one of those days. All right. Sorry about that. So we're going to get into the patterns first before we get into the Sephirah. And I brought some tarot cards with me just in case we do talk about certain Sephirah, so that I can show you kind of how the energies are shown in the cards too. I don't think we'll get there today though. But like what I was saying before, mildness is the key, right? The middle pillar is the key. We want to be balanced in all things if we can be. So instead of getting angry, like when something happens, we could be merciful. But unbalanced mercy is like unchecked evil, right? It's good to be severe to evil things. I'm not saying we should go around judging or punishing, but we're not pushovers either. We have to defend ourselves too. So this is a necessary force. That's why it's in the tree. But being overly merciful, being like a pushover, or things like that, is unbalanced too. I hope you're understanding what I'm saying. So if we spend all of our energy in just one sphere, we can study it, but a lot of times when we get unbalanced, bad things happen to us when we're not balanced. It's basically what I'm trying to say as I recover from this brain drama. Sorry, I got into a lot of drama before the show. I'm trying to recover from it. So let's say when someone's trying to hurt you, right? Or if they're trying to hurt you in a way that you must defend yourself, then it's fine. It's balanced, right? Or for instance, if you're constantly giving to somebody that doesn't help themselves, if you're helping somebody that doesn't help themselves, you ever seen the Six of Pentacles? I've got Crowley's deck, but in Arthur Edward Waite's deck shows that, right? So the Four of Pentacles is a little different. It's like the foundation, right? The Five of Pentacles shows people that are outside the comfort of the spirit and the church, and they're out in the cold. So these cards are showing you what all this kind of like unbalanced force is in each area. But the Six of Pentacles, if you recall, shows a person that's giving, like they're giving to one person that has a bandage on their head in the Arthur Edward Waite deck, and their back is turned to another beggar. So there's two people beside this person that's giving, right? And it's kind of like the same thing when you look at the Justice card, but imagine this person is the middle path. It's giving to the person that's not really begging. They're being honest and upfront. They've got a bandage on their head. They need help. So that card shows them giving to that person, being merciful in the spirit of Chesed, the blue sphere. But behind them, there's a beggar wearing, if you got the right colors of the card, they're wearing like a blue robe with a little red card in their pocket. And you could tell this person has a hidden desire or a hidden agenda. And if you pay close attention and meditate upon that card, you'll see the little red card in their pocket. The balanced action is to give to the person that's actually in need, and not to the beggar that does nothing for themselves or that has a hidden agenda. That would be the balanced action of the Six of Pentacles. And it's kind of showing you that in that card. Where if you draw, say, like the Four of Pentacles or the Five of Pentacles, 4 corresponds with Chesed, the blue sphere over there in the middle on the right that you can see. And Gabor corresponds with severity. When you draw those cards, it's kind of showing you the energy, what it would be like if you're just focused, if you stay in that energy, so to speak. So all of the story of the tarot and all of the story of self-development when it comes to the Kabbalah is trying to teach you a lesson of balance, a lesson of mildness, or the way, right? That's why they say Tiferet is the Christ-like energy. But that's not the only pattern on the tree. The left column, the column of severity, and the collar of mercy. We've talked about the supernal triangles of manifestation and emanation, how things come manifest into the world. Those are patterns on the tree. We've talked about the lightning flash of manifestation, how the energies come through each Sephirah before they get to the earth. And she goes on and continues the discussion of the patterns of the tree. But what I want you to think about is when you go out in nature, when you begin to understand the energies of just the spheres, the Sephirah, When you look at a bug or a flower, or when you talk to somebody, anything, just ask yourself, if the tree is an actual representation of where all of our energies of creation come from, where would this come from, right? Just like today, I saw a red wasp. Angry little bastards. Bright red. What are they? Well, there's probably a mixture of earth and little mixtures of everything in there because they're alive, but what nature is showing me is that red, fiery, kind of like severity energy from a wasp. It's just cool is all I'm saying when you go to study nature. And geometry too, because you'll see later that geometry corresponds with the Sephirah as well. So there are various methods by which the 10 holy Sephirah can be grouped upon the tree of life. Of these, it cannot be said that one is correct and another incorrect. They serve different purposes and throw much light upon the meaning of the individual Sephirah by revealing their associations and equilibrium. They're also of value because they enable the decimal system of the tree to be equated with the 3, 4, and 7-fold systems. The primary conformation of the tree is into 3 pillars. It will be observed by reference to the diagram that the Sephirah readily lend themselves to this 3-fold vertical division, for they are arranged in 3 columns. These are called the right-hand pillar of mercy, the left-hand pillar of severity, and the middle pillar of mildness or equilibrium. Before proceeding any further, we must make clear the significance of the right and left sides of the tree. As we look at the tree, we see that Bina, Geburah, and Hod upon the left side, and Chokmah, Chesed, and Netzach upon the right side. This is the way we view the tree when we are using it to represent the macrocosm. But when we are using it to represent the microcosm, that is our own being, we, as it were, back into the tree so that the middle pillar equates with the spine, and the pillar that contains Bina, Geburah, and Hod are on the right side. So our right side, right arm, right side is severity, right? And the pillar that contains Chokmah, Chesed, and Netzach is the left side of us. These 3 pillars can also be equated with the Sushumna, Ida, and Pingala of the yoga system, and this is very important to remember. So I'm right-handed, right? So it makes even bigger sense for me because the right side of me is the more active side in the body, right? And the left side is the more passive side, the weak arm. The reversal, so it's important to remember the reversal of the tree when it's used as a subjective symbol. Otherwise, confusion results. In his valuable book upon the literature of the Kabbalah, the Holy Kabbalah, Mr. Waite, in the frontispiece, for some reason best known to himself, reverses the usual presentation of the tree. But it may be taken for granted that most representations of the symbol give the objective tree, not the subjective. Yeah, because when we look at it, it's mirrored. It's, again, if the tree was like inside of us and we were aligned with it, severity would be on our right side, our right hand, right? So when the tree is being used to indicate the lines of force in the aura, it is the subjective tree that must be used, so that Geburah equates with the right arm. In all cases, of course, the middle pillar remains steadfast. The pillar of severity is considered to be negative or feminine, and the pillar of mercy to be positive or masculine. Superficially, it might be thought that these attributions lead to incompatible symbolisms, but a study of the pillars in the light of what we know concerning the individual Sephirah will reveal that the incompatibilities are purely superficial, and that the deeper significance of the symbolism is entirely consonant. It will be observed that the line, which indicates the successive development of the Sephirah, zigzags from side to side of the glyph and has been aptly named the lightning flash in consequence. This indicates graphically that the Sephirah are successively positive, negative, and balanced. This is a far better representation of the process of creation than if the spheres were represented one above another in a straight line. For it indicates the difference in the nature of the divine emanations and their relations to each other. For when we look at the glyph of the tree, we readily perceive the relations existing between the Sephiroth and how they group, reflect, and react upon each other. At the head of the pillar of severity, the negative feminine pillar is Bina, the great mother. Now, to Bina is assigned the sphere of Saturn, and Saturn is the giver of form. At the head of the pillar of mercy is Chokma, the supernal father, a male potency. Thus we see that we have here the oppositions of form and force. In the second trinity, we have the opposition, the opposed forces, right, of Chesed, Jupiter, and Gabora, Mars. Again, we have the pairs of opposites of construction in Jupiter, the lawgiver and beneficent ruler, and destruction in Mars, the warrior and destroyer of evil. It may be asked why such a male potency as Gabora should be placed in the feminine side, and a lot of people do ask that. It must be remembered that Mars is a destructive potency, one of the infortunes in astrology. The positive buildups, or the negative breakdown, the positives build up, the negatives break down. Just remember that. The positives build up, the negatives break down. The positive is a kinetic force. The negative is a static force. Positives in motion, negative, static. Just stay still and destroys, basically. So these aspects appear again in Netzach at the base of the pillar of mercy and Hod at the base of the pillar of severity. So Netzach is Venus, the green nature ray, elemental force, the initiation of the emotions. And Hod is Mercury, Hermes, the initiation of the knowledge, or of knowledge. So Netzach is instinct and emotion, a kinetic force. Hod is intellect, which is concrete thought and reduction of intuitive knowledge to form. We must remember, however, that each Sephirah is negative, that is to say, feminine, in relation to its predecessor, whence it emanates and whence it receives the divine influence, and positive, masculine, or stimulating in respect of its successor, to whom it transmits the divine influence. Does that make sense, what she's saying there? Because she's basically saying each Sephirah is bisexual, like a magnet of which one pole must of necessity be negative and the other positive. I know it seems like a lot of goobly goop, right? What's up, Bryce? What's up, Barefoot? What's up, Michael? I saw Juan. What'd you do, Juan? You delete your comment? All right, so for instance, if you see the pillar of mercy, we could call that the positive pillar. So, and the negative pillar, the pillar of severity. So left to right, positives over on this side, right? If we're looking at it, negatives on this side. So Chokma positive, Bina negative, right? Chesed is kind of positive, Mars is the negative. Netzach is the positive, Hod is the negative. All three of those are masculine, all three of those on the left are feminine. It's the same thing if we come down the tree as it emanates, right? So Kether, let's just say Kether, would be the positive giving force to both of Chokma and Bina, right? So Chokma and Bina would be the female receiving force of Kether. And then as it comes down on both pillars, you could say, or you could do one pillar, but I'm just doing both at the same time. Underneath it is the receiving force of the positive force of the one that's above it. So basically, you could just say, these are relations, but they're also a giving and a taking force, just like the above or the higher supernals are giving to the lower supernals. Yeah, it's the fan. I'm trying to get it to turn off. It's glitched out right now. I don't think it's feedback though. Actually, hold on. Let me try one more thing. I didn't do this. Let's just unplug that son of a bitch. All right. Is it gone? It's not a fan. It's an air conditioner, but it's a rattling piece of junk. All right. So, anyways, you could look at it like two. Like the very top is spirit, Kether, and the very bottom is Malkuth, which is earth, masculine, feminine, right? Top to bottom, masculine, feminine, right to left or left to right. So I know it gets confusing, but just remember when you're looking at the tree, you're observing the tree, but what you're seeing on the left is really the right side. So if you turned around and backed into the tree, that would be the right side, okay? And the left would be the left side. You understand what I'm saying? So the pillar of severity would be on your right side. Bina, Gebura, Hod. The pillar of mercy would be on your left side. Chokma, Chesed, and Netzach. But because you're looking at it, it's flipped. Okay. So we must remember, and she's going to explain it in her way, what I was just saying. So we must remember, however, that each Sephirah is negative, that is to say feminine, in relation to its predecessor, whence it emanates and whence it receives the divine influence that's in front of it or above it or whatever, and positive, masculine, or stimulating in respect of its successor to whom it transmits the divine influence. Therefore, each Sephirah is bisexual, like a magnet, of which one pole must of necessity be negative and the other positive. We may perhaps explain matters further by an analogy with astrology and say that a Sephirah in the feminine pillar is well dignified when it's functioning in its negative aspect, and ill dignified when it's functioning positively, and that in the masculine pillar, the positive or the position is reversed. Thus, Bina Saturn is well dignified when providing stability and endurance, but ill dignified when the overplus of the resistance causes it to become actively aggressive, and we get obstruction and accretion of the effete matter. And on the other hand, Chesed, mercy, is well dignified when ordering and preserving all things harmoniously, but ill dignified when mercy becomes sentimentality and it usurps the sphere of Saturn, preserving that which the fiery energy of Mars, its opposite number, the Sephirah Gebura, should sweep out of existence. Does that make sense? Hope that makes sense to you. Think of it like this, all right? So think of one side of let's just look at masculine and feminine right now. Because all of these energies have different things, but they all on one side have a masculine and all on the other have a feminine. And then, of course, you got the middle pillar, which is the middle. So think about relationships, right? For the most part, I don't want to offend anybody, but when a man is in his masculine energy, a man is in his masculine energy and a woman is in their feminine energy. They're comfortable, right? They're doing their job. So a man usually will lead. It goes after like its desires. It pushes forward. It gets things done. It leads. If it's really gets towards like an advanced masculine energy, it can conduct and lead and be a leader. And I'm saying lead a lot, but you know what I mean. It goes after its goals, that kind of thing. And the feminine energy is most comfortable when it can take that leadership from the masculine energy and create, right? And like create and manifest things and express itself. So it takes in the masculine and creates the form. What happens though when those two get mixed up? Let's say a man starts to become too feminine. He stops leading and wants the woman to lead. Or he stops chasing his goals. I don't want to say a man. Let's just say masculine, okay? So the masculine stops chasing their goals. They stop going after the things that they were going after for. Well, then the feminine has to take on the masculine role. And thus, things become toxic. Not really toxic. Toxic is a different thing. Unattractive. Unattractive is the word. So the attraction between the two poles starts to cease. And that's what happens. That's how we lose attraction for each other. It works the other way, too. If a man is leading or a masculine's doing the leading thing and going after their goals or whatever, and we all have masculine and feminine nature in us. So a lot of us, some women have more masculine energy, so just don't take any offense to any of this. It's ridiculous to be offended about it. And then, so if the feminine energy starts to have to become masculine, the attraction stops. If the masculine energy, because it's not receiving feminine energy, starts to have to do the feminine thing, the attraction starts to cease as well. I hope that makes sense. So just like those two base things, like the law of attraction of energies works in this kind of sacred sexual energy, it's the same way for each Sephiroth. Right, so Chokma and Bina. Chokma at the very top right would be the masculine, Bina would be the feminine. Chokma is like this active force. It's also the stars. It's conducting energy into manifestation. Bina is the solid form. It makes the laws, the concrete stuff, the walls, whatever, and both of them make creation based on the attractive forces between them, but they are opposites. Same thing with mercy and severity, the blue and the red one, right? You have mercy and kingship and Jupiter, and it's kind of like the shepherd, so to speak. But then you have severity, which is the war. It's like war and destruction. You need both energies for equilibrium, right? Think of if you went around life being a sheep, or you get eaten by the wolves, right? But if you went around being a wolf, you'd be an asshole. You'd just destroy everything until you're the only thing left. Then you'd have to eat yourself. So what is the middle pillar? The middle pillar is the shepherd. That's why the shepherd is talked about so much in sheep and all this stuff in the Bible, because a shepherd is the middle path. It protects its flock. It's not a wolf. It's not a sheep. It's a shepherd. Yet these energies exist. If you go below that, same thing. You got Venus and Netzach and all this stuff in the green one, the green ray or the green energy there. And then you've got Hod and the orange energy. So you've got emotions, nature, love. And you've got over here, you've got intellect, the messenger, knowledge. The middle path, the middle way is for us to be both, right? And so these patterns work, the relation between these two pillars work in all of existence in it, but it's also the same thing from the top down as they emanate down. So these energies, and you can see the paths kind of show this too. So there's another path. There's the flaming sword of manifestation as it goes through each Sephiroth in a zigzag, but the energies also come down too, right, when we explore the tree. That's why there's a tarot card for each one of those, because it explains the energies between the two Sephiroth that it's in between. What's up, Spiritual Help Desk? I like that name. Yeah, man, I got a late start. I'm so sorry. The two pillars then represent the positive and negative forces in nature, the active and passive, the destructive and constructive, the concreting form and free-moving force. The Sephiroth on the middle pillar may be taken as representing levels of consciousness and the planes on which they operate. Malkuth is sensory consciousness. Yesod is astral psychism. Tifereth is illuminated consciousness, the highest aspect of the personality with which the individual has coalesced. This is the conditions which really constitute initiation. It is the consciousness of the higher self brought through into the personality. It is a gleam of higher consciousness coming from behind the veil of Paroketh. It is for this reason that the messiahs and saviors of the world are assigned to Tifereth and the symbol of the tree. For they were the light bringers to humanity, and as all who bring fire from heaven must do, they died the sacrificial death for the sake of mankind. It is here too that in initiation we die to the lower self in order that we may rise in the higher self, in Jesu Mor Amor. You'll see this in nature too. It's not just a choice, it's in nature. Just like we have to die to live. Consciousness has created life. We live in cycles of birth, death, and resurrection. So we have to, that is a holy sacrifice in itself, just in its lower form. This is why they say, holy is the Lamb or whatever. But it's the same thing too on a higher level, this concept I just talked about spiritually. So when we die to our lower selves, die to our higher selves, we get the Philosopher's Stone, or we get the White Stone, or the new name, or we become star seeds, or whatever you want to call it. I don't care what you call it. If we truly do die to our higher selves and let go of our lower selves, a sacrifice happens. And that's that solar energy of Tifereth, right? Right there in the middle where the holy hexagram is. And so then after that, the middle pillar rises through Da'ath, the invisible Sephirah, which we have already seen is knowledge according to the rabbis, and conscious awareness or apprehension according to the terminology of the psychologists. At the head of this pillar is Kether, the crown, the root of all being. Consciousness therein reaches from the spiritual essence of Kether through the realization of Da'ath, which carries it across the abyss into the translated consciousness of Tifereth, whither it is brought by the sacrifice of the Christ, which rends the veil of Paraketh, then on into the psychic consciousness of Yesod, the sphere of the moon, and thence to the sensory brain consciousness of the earth or Malkuth. Thus does consciousness descend in the course of involution, which is the term applied to the phase of evolution which leads down from the first manifest through the subtle planes of existence to dense matter. The esotericists should, strictly speaking, only use the term evolution when describing the ascent from matter back to spirit, for then is evolved that which was involved in the descent through the subtle phases of development. So it's like that figure eight happening all the time, right? So we evolve consciously, right? Or we evolve physically, actually, but we involve spiritually. It's like an involution thing that happens, and the cycle just keeps going. So it is obvious that nothing can be evolved, unfolded, which was not previously involved or enfolded. The actual course of evolution follows the track of the lightning flash or flaming sword from Kether to Malkuth, and the order of development of the Sephirah previously described. But consciousness descends plane by plane. That's the layers, right? Layer by layer. So consciousness descends plane by plane and only begins to manifest when the polarizing Sephiroth are in equilibrium. Therefore, the modes of consciousness are assigned to the equilibrating Sephiroth upon the middle pillar, but the magical powers are assigned to the opposing Sephiroth, each at the end of the beam of the balance of the pairs of opposites. The way of initiation follows the coilings of the serpent of wisdom upon the tree, but the way of illumination follows the path of the arrow, which is shot from the bow of promise, Kesheth, the rainbow of astral colors that spreads like a halo behind Yesod. This is the way of the mystic as distinguished from that of the occultist. It is swift and direct and free from the danger of the temptations of unbalanced force that is met within either pillar. But it confers no magical powers save those of sacrifice and Tifereth and psychism and Yesod. You hear that? So when we think about magic, well, I'm a magician, I'm going to manifest frogs, and I'm going to turn this into that, whatever, right? So the only important real magical power is that of the sacrifice and psychism. Developing your intuition and your psychic nature, that's your true spiritual power. And sacrificing the ego, right, to the greater of good of everyone involved, not just you. We have noted the three trinities of the tree in our preliminary discussion of the 10 Sephirah. Let us recapitulate these again for clearness' sake. Mathers calls the first trinity of Kether, Chokmah, and Bina the intellectual world. The second trinity of Chesed, Geburah, and Tifereth the moral world. And the third trinity of Netzach, Hod, and Yesod, the material world. To my way of thinking, this terminology is misleading. I think it is too, actually. For these words do not note in our minds what is meant by the worlds. The intellect is essentially a concreting of intuition and apprehension, and such is an unsuitable term for the world of the three supernals. With the use of the term moral world, morals, for Chesed and Geburah and Tifereth, I do agree, and I do too. It is identical with my term ethical triangle, but with the term material world for the Trinity of Netzach, Hod, and Yesod. I emphatically disagree, for this term belongs exclusively to Malkuth, and I agree with that too. I don't know what she's about to say, honestly. I haven't read forward, but to me, Netzach, Hod, and Yesod, right? Venus, Mercury, and the moon, those energies don't represent the material world. They represent the astral world, the blueprints before the material world comes into existence, basically. That's just my opinion, though. Let's see what she says. These three Sephirah are not material, but astral. She agrees. And for this trinity, I propose the term astral or magical world. It is not well to wrest words from their dictionary meaning if you define your use of them, and this Mathers has not troubled to do. The intellectual sphere is not so much a level as a pillar, for the intellect, being the content of consciousness, is essentially synthetic. These terms, however, are apparently taken from a somewhat crude translation of the Hebrew names given to the four levels into which the Kabbalists divide manifestation. These four levels permit of yet another grouping of Sephiroth. The highest of these is Atziluth, the archetypal world, consisting of Kether. The second, Bria, called the creative world, consisting of Chokmah and Bina. The supernal Abba and Amma, the father and the mother. The third level is the level of Yetzirah, the formative world, consisting of the six central Sephiroth, via Chesed, Geburah, Tifereth, Netzach, Hod, and Yesod. And the fourth world is Asaya, the material world, represented by Malkuth. And I have pictures of this if you go watch my video on the introduction to Qabalah, right? But, in the tarot cards, the colors also represent that too. Right? So usually red will correspond with the energies of fire, but also primordial fire, which is the world of Atziluth. So if you watch my video, I explain that there's kings in every world, queens in every world, right? Anyways, I don't want to mix all that up. You can go watch that separate because it'll get complicated if I do. So let's see. Where did I? Yeah. So the 10 Sephiroth are also confirmed into 7 places, or palaces, sorry. In the first palace are the 3 supernals. In the 7th palace are Yesod and Malkuth, and the rest of the Sephiroth, each has a palace to itself. The grouping is of interest as revealing the intimate relationship of Yesod and Malkuth, and enabling the tenfold scale of the Kabbalah to be equated with the sevenfold scale of Theosophy. There is also a threefold division of the Sephirah, which is very important in Kabbalistic symbolism. In this system, Kether is given the title of Eric Ampen, the vast countenance. This is the manifested father, or Abba, the supernal father. Chokmah and Amma, the supernal mother, Bina, these being the positive and negative aspects of the 3 in 1. These two differentiated aspects, when united, are, according to Mathers, the Elohim, that curious divine name which is a feminine noun with a masculine plural attached to it. This union takes place in Doth, the invisible Sephirah. So what is Doth? Think about that, right? What she's saying there. If you think about it from a biblical standpoint, what's up, Aussie girl. If you think about it from a biblical standpoint, in the beginning was the Word, right? So Da'ath is right there where the throat chakra is. You can't see it, but that's where it would exist. Right there in that dead spot on the middle path. So in the beginning was the Word, right? And the Elohim is like a plural feminine form of God. So if you take this whole supernal creation, the masculine chokma into Bina where the triangle is, across into that, and all three of those energies exist in Bina. And creation comes through Da'ath, and the actual beginning of creation is Da'ath where the throat chakra is. It makes sense. On a macrocosmic level, but it's the same way in the microcosmic level. If you want to manifest or create things into your life, you first have to have the spark or the kether, the idea. Maybe it comes from the pineal gland, but you need the divine spark that comes from inside of a place we're still traversing. And then the masculine puts it into action, right? The feminine expresses it. And then therefore it creates. So this is how we create things as individuals. And even on a higher level, when we come in together with a partner that we love or whatever, we create children with them, but we also create life when we create kingdoms. Each little family has a kingdom of its own and things like that. Kingdoms depends. It could be queendoms too, or it could be both. And hopefully all of them are expressing themselves into the world and evolving consciousness and evolving the world and contributing and things like that. Hopefully. But at the very least, a great symbolism to understand this would be children. There's nothing more divine than children, which is the ultimate expression of creation and love, right? So the next 6 Sephirah underneath those 3 are conformed into Zera Ampin, the lesser countenance or microprosopos, whose special Sephirah is Tiferet, right in the middle. The remaining Sephirah, Malkuth, is called the bride of microprosopos. So think about that, the bridegroom. That's Kabbalistic, actually, if you think about it. Microprosopos is also sometimes called the king. Malkuth is then called the queen. She is also called the lesser mother or terrestrial Eve, as distinguished from Bina, the supernal mother. These different methods of classifying the Sephirah are not competing systems, but are designed to enable the decimal system of the Kabbalist to be equated with other systems using a threefold notation, such as the Christian, or as we have already noted, a sevenfold system like Theosophy. They are also valuable as indicating functional affiliations among the Sephirah themselves. And the final system of classification, which we must note, and under the presidency of the 3 mother letters of the Hebrew alphabet, Aleph, Mem, and Shin. These 3, according to the Yetziratic attribution of the Hebrew alphabet, are assigned to the 3 elements of air, water, and fire. Under the presidency of Aleph is the airy triad of Kether, in which the root of air, reflecting downward through Tiferet, the solar fire, into Yesod, the lunar radiance. And Bina is the root of water, or Mara, the great sea, reflected through Chesed into Hod, under the presidency of Mem, or the letter Mem, the mother of water. And in Chokmah is the root of fire, reflected downwards through Geborah into Netzach under the presidency of Shin, the mother of fire. It's confusing, right? Yeah, you'll have to watch my video again too. But you can see, look on the tree. Just look at it, right? Just look at it. You see the colors on the paths? Red. You'll see red and then kind of orange and then yellow and stuff. And then, so red would be kind of like fire or sulfur. Yellow would be air. Blue would be water. And this is why people get confused when they look at it, right? Because it's got a whole bunch of different filing systems put into the main tree. And then once it's all put together, it kind of looks like this. So you've got the parts of the soul, like if you watch my video on it, you've got the parts of the soul, you've got the flaming sword of manifestation, you've got you've got the 3 pillars, which is another kind of filing system. You've got 4 or 5 different filing systems in there. Just like all 4 elements aren't just earth, air, fire, and water. There's 4 different versions of the elements, but all of this can be studied in the tree, right? So there's like primordial fire, which is the world of Atziluth. And then there's the fiery part of the soul. Then there's the fire element of earth. And then there's like transitional fire. This is why the tarot is so cool, because once you, like if you start to study the Kabbalah and then you go back to the tarot, right? You're like, oh shit. You can see all the filing systems through the tarot. I'll give you an example too, if I can find the card, because Crowley shows it perfectly. And no, it doesn't mean I'm in love with Crowley just because I have a deck of cards here, right? I hate that, man. Anytime I represent the guy, people are like, oh, you're a Crowley follower. It's like, no, I just don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. Never have, never will. It's stupid. That's what makes us dumb. It's because we don't like something and we don't learn from it. No, that's not a good one to show you. I don't think we're gonna. Yeah, we do. We'll have to take like a short break, but we'll skip most of the commercials. I'm trying to find the damn 6 of Swords. That's my favorite one to show you. I hope I didn't drop it somewhere. But it kind of shows all of the different filing systems in that one card perfectly, if you ask me. Because all of the swords. You know what? Put a fork in it. We'll do the break thing, and I'll find it there. This is why most people, when they look at like ceremonial magic and they get into the occult, it's like, man, I don't even want to mess with it, because once they start looking at the Kabbalah, they're like, damn, man, it's complex. It's just nobody decided to make different filing systems or different trees and just keep it that way. They just decided to put all of these different understandings and filing systems and energies and things like that all into one glyph. And when we look at that complex glyph, we don't see all those things until we learn them. Once we learn them, it becomes easy, though. Trust me. It really does. Boy. Short break. That I can assure you. Has to be.
One's blights, another's paradise, of unpolished.
What is dedication?
I am the father of a 9-year-old little girl and a 6-year-old little boy. And I find fatherhood both relentlessly challenging and relentlessly rewarding. My daughter is biological and my son is adopted. I love them both so much. From the morning when you wake up to putting them to bed at night, and every moment in between, it really is so special, and boy, is it exhausting. One thing that I fear about being a parent is the future for my children. I think a parent's job is to protect our children, but also prepare them for the world so they become good, kind human beings. But I'm also hopeful that the future holds a more inclusive and compassionate world for them.
That's dedication. Find out more at fatherhood.gov. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
If you're worried your friend may be struggling, remember, you don't have to be there to be there.
You could say, how are you, or get a fake tattoo. You could ask with an app if it works for you. You could chat on the game, kick off your flip-flops. You could ask on your couch while you binge watch. Whatever gets you talking.
Reach reach out to a friend about their mental health. Learn how you can help at seizetheawkward.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council, American Foundation for Suicide Prevention, and the JED Foundation.
What grows in the forest? Trees? Sure. Know what else grows in the forest? Our imagination, our sense of wonder, and our family bonds grow too. Because when we disconnect from this and connect with this, we reconnect with each other and build family memories we will carry with us forever. The forest is closer than you think. Find a forest near you and start exploring at discovertheforest.org. It's easy. Just put in your zip code to find family-friendly outdoor destinations near you. You'll also find guides to free activities, games, and amazing forest facts. Give the magic of the outdoors to your kids and reconnect with your family. Find a forest near you at discovertheforest.org. That's discovertheforest.org. Brought to you by the United States Forest Service and the Ad Council.
When I step into the light, my arms are open wide. When I step into the light, my eyes searching wildly. Would you not going to breathe? Sitting on top of the world with your legs hanging free. Would you not going to breathe? Okay, okay, okay. When I'm walking by the water, splish splash, me and you taking a bath. When I'm walking by the water, come up through my toes, to my ankles, to my head, to my soul, I'm blown away.
Broadcasting from Forest Tower Studios, all the way from the Deep South. Now, here is your host, Joe Root. You're listening to Lighting the Void Radio.
Oh, gotta love some Dave Matthews. He's a lunatic. All right, we're back. We're gonna get into this. I hope you guys that are listening to the podcast or listening live or whatever can at least go back and watch the video that I did on the introduction to this, because I mean this is all like layman's terms, man. I'm not some teacher trying to teach stuff in a sophisticated manner. I'm just trying to speak on your level so you can understand where I'm at with this stuff. But we're reading the Mystical Qabalah by Dion Fortune. And so she's talked about the patterns on the tree and all these different introductions to it. So, for instance, here's a photograph that kind of corresponds, and I'm going to try to set it next to the tree if I can. Hopefully it doesn't like, there we go. Kind of corresponds to the four worlds, right? So I've showed this image in the video. So these are the four worlds of manifestation, from archetypes to creation to formation into action. And then that's a filing system, because you have certain Sephiroth that exist in those worlds. And then I think here's another picture that I used. It's hard to find good photos that you can use without getting in trouble, but this shows now there's some people say that Atziluth is only Kether, just like she is, and some people say the supernal triangles in Atziluth. It's really up to you. You study both and decide for yourself. This is the one that I use, though. Okay? I have a very complex spiritual system. Yes, that's right. And then when you hear her talking about the supernals, or the three triangles, and what Sephiroth exist in those, these are the supernals right next to the sword of manifestation. So manifestation comes into creation in this manner, right? The three triangles, or the supernal, the ethical, and the astral, but also through each Sephirah, and all of this supposedly happens at once through each Sephirah, and this zigzag sword of manifestation. So that's, Kether, Chokmah, Bina, Chesed, Geburah, Tifereth, Netzach, Hod, Yesod, Malkuth, in that order. So when you hear magicians, or if you read any old grimoires and they're doing like invocations, they'll pull things in or invoke things from knowing that flaming sword. So this is why you'll hear them kind of give awe to the lunar energy, and also to Mercury that's right behind it, because it's coming from Mercury to the moon and to the earth, or Venus into Mercury to the moon and to the earth. Hopefully I got that right. It could be the other way. Hold on. Yeah, I got that right. So when you read it, and what I'm saying is, when you understand the tree and then you start reading these things, it makes it a lot easier. There's another image that I have, I think. No? Okay. I thought I had another one that I was using. Yeah, okay, yeah, I do. And then the pillars. So this is another filing system. Certain Sephirah allow certain pillars, mercy, severity, and mildness. Again, please, I got a video up. If you get confused, you can use it for reference. I also have PDF downloads of the stuff that I used in the video at the Gumroad store. They're free at the Gumroad store. I think you got to pay like $3 in Patreon, because Patreon won't let me sell anything for free. All right, so there's all the groupings. Okay, so the next chapter is chapter 9, the 10 Sephirah and the 4 worlds. So we've already noted the divisions, she says. We've already noted the division of the Sephirah into the 4 worlds of the Kabbalists, for this is one of the methods of classification much employed in Kabbalistic thought and great value when studying evolution. We must remember, however, that the tree is not an arbitrary method of classification, and because a thing is classified under one head and one system, it does not mean that it cannot equally or properly be classified under another heading and another system. The reappearance of the same symbol in a different sphere often affords valuable clues. So under another method of classification, the 10 holy Sephirah are considered as appearing in the Kabbalistic world upon another arc or level of manifestation, so that just as the Ein Sof, or the limitless light of the unmanifest, concentrated a point, which was Kether, and the emanations worked down through the increasing grades of density to Malkuth, so the Malkuth of Atziluth is conceived of as giving rise to the Kether of Bria. Yeah, it's even going to get a little more complex. And so on consecutively down the planes, the Malkuth of Bria gives rise to the Kether of Yetzirah. And the Malkuth of Yetzirah gives rise to the Kether of Asaya, and Malkuth of Asaya in its lowest aspects abutting upon the Clipoth. So it is Atziluth, however, which is considered the natural sphere of the Sephirah as much, and for this reason is called the world of emanations. It is here and here only that God acts directly and not through his ministers, angels and ministers and all this other stuff. So in Bria, he acts through the meditation of the angels, in Yetzirah through the angelic orders, and in Asaya through those centers which I've named the chakras and planets, the elements and the signs of the zodiac. So what she's saying is, let me see if I can find this picture again. What she's saying is that there's a tree in every world, and you'll find pictures of this on the internet too, where they're all connected. So there's the 4 trees, right? So you have the Atziluth, Bria, Yetzirah, and Asaya, right? In that order. And this tree, this main glyph that we see, the emanations of existence, actually reside in Atziluth. All of the God's emanations. And then the angels reside in the blue one, right? That you see the second tree down. Like I said, look on the internet. You'll find a glyph of all four trees connected as it comes down. So the angels exist in Bria. And the angelic orders exist in the yellow one, Yetzirah. And the chakras and other things like elements and the elementals and all this stuff exists in Asaya. Yeah, it's that complex. But isn't the, like any spiritual system, complex, right? For the most part, it is. But once you start understanding the basics, and because this would be like the Bible of all of the Western occultists, if you want to look at it that way. Once you understand the basics, then you get it. Or either that or I'm just crazy and I like complex things. We have then in these four sets of symbols a complete system of notation for expressing the mode of function of any given power at any given level. In other words, this allows us to classify and categorize pretty much everything in existence on any level. And this system of notation is the basis of ceremonial magic with its names of power, and also of the talismanic magic and the tarot system of divination. It is for this reason that it is said of the barbarous names of evocation that so much as a letter may be changed. For these names are formula based on the Hebrew alphabet, which is a sacred language of the West, just as Sanskrit is a sacred language of the East. In Hebrew, moreover, each letter is also a number, so the names are numerical formula. A most intricate system of metaphysical mathematics called gematria is based on this principle. These are aspects of gematria which I, at the present stage of my knowledge, at any rate, consider debased and idle, being the accretions of superstition. But the basic idea of the system of cosmic mathematics unquestionably enshrines great truths and contains great possibilities. Using this system, it is possible to unravel the relationships of all manner of cosmic factors if the correct Hebrew spelling of the names of power is known. For these names were formulated in accordance with the principles of gematria, and therefore gematria supplies the keys to them. But this aspect of our subject, fascinating as it is, we cannot enter upon now. So in the archetypal world of Atziluth, there are assigned to the 10 Sephirah 10 forms of the divine name. And anyone who has read the Bible cannot fail to have observed that God is referred to under diverse titles as the Lord, or as Lord, or as the Lord, or as the Father, and by several other appellations. Now, these are not literary devices to avoid needless repetition, but are exact metaphysical terms. And according to the names used, we know the aspects of divine force in question and the plane on which it is functioning. In other words, when you hear people say the Father or the Lord or God of hosts or God of this or that, it's not just because they're saying it to entertain themselves. That actually comes from these systems, right? Or these places on the tree. I mean, it's the God of everything, but, you know, the certain aspects of God, or like for instance the Elohim Sabaoth, or El Kai Shaddai, or all this other stuff. Shaddai El Kai, sorry, that's how you say it. These are all different names that exist at certain places in the tree. So in the world of Bria, it is held that the mighty archangels carry out the mandates of God and give them expression, and assigned to the Sephirotic spheres on the tree in this world are the names of these 10 mighty spirits. And yet, Sirah, it is the choirs of angels, innumerable in their concourse, who carry out the divine commands, and these also are assigned to their Sephirotic spheres, and thus enabling us to know their mode and level of function. In Asaya, In Asaya, as we have already noted, certain natural centers of force are given similar correspondences. We will consider all these associations when we come to study the Sephirah in detail. I want you guys to hear something, right? So you can understand how this is used magically. I was just thinking of it, and I do things on the fly. You'll have to forgive me. So listen to this invocation as Stephen uses an adept, a very good adept. Well, I mean, super good magician that I knew. Okay, listen to this.
The Grand Kabbalistic Invocation. Be favorable unto me, O ye powers of the kingdom divine. May glory and eternity be in my left and right hands, so that I may attain to victory. May pity and justice restore my soul to its original purity. May understanding and wisdom divine conduct me to the imperishable crown. Spirit of Malkuth, thou who hast labored and hast overcome, set me in the path of good. Lead me to the two pillars of the temple, to Yakan and Boaz, that I may rest upon them. Angels of Netzach and of Hod, make ye my feet to stand firmly on Yesod. Angel of Gedula, console me. Angel of Geburah, strike if it must be so, but make me stronger, so that I may become worthy of the influence of Tifereth. O angel of Bina, give me light. O angel of Chokmah, give me love. O angel of Kether, confer upon me faith and hope. Spirits of the Yetziratic world, withdraw me from the darkness of Asaya. O luminous triangle of the world of Beriah, cause me to see and understand the mysteries of Yetzirah and of Atzilus. O holy letter Shin, O ye Aishim, assist me by the name Shaddai. O ye cherubim, give me strength through Adonai. O Benai Elohim, be brothers unto me in the name Zaboah. O Elohim, fight for me by the holy Tetragrammaton. O Malachim, protect me through Yehovah. O Seraphim, give me holy love in the name Eloah. O Chazmelim, enlighten me by the torches of Eloi and the Shekinah. O Aralim, angels of power, sustain me by Adonai. O Ophanim, 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 forget me not and cast me not out of the sanctuary. O Hioth HaKadosh, cry aloud as an eagle, speak as a man, roar and bellow. Kadosh, Kadosh, Kadosh Shaddai, Adonai, Yehovah, Yahweh, Asher, Yahweh. Amen.
So that's pretty cool, right? So Stephen Ash was not an adept, but was I think he was like an episcopus or a magister templi in his order, and he never talked about it. Never. He wrote a lot of books. He was a great magician, and he is performing ceremonial magic. He's performing an invocation, but he's invoking the entire tree into his being. So he's talking about all the different God names and where they exist, and the angels and the Hebrew names that correspond with them. And he's asking, it's like a prayer, right? And he's asking all of these forces to come into him, to embody him, right? So it's a beautiful thing, ceremony, because you're also putting the masculine and feminine together when you perform a ceremony, just like you would a play or any kind of art. So he's using all of the symbolism of the tree, which is a masculine idea, which is knowledge. It's kind of not a masculine, let's just say left-brained idea, okay? And then the performing of the ritual in like the drama and the performing of the art itself is the right brain, the feminine side of the brain, and bringing these two things together is also a form of manifestation and creation. So, just so I'm only showing people this just so people understand. Like, a lot of people look at the occult and magic as it's like evil, devil worship and stuff. But literally, you just heard Stephen Ash right there invoke every name of God from all of the Western traditions, including from the Kabbalah, in a way that, and for the good, right? So it's not, there is dark magic, but that's not it, you know. And this whole thing, as creepy as it may be to some, is a very beautiful thing to me, and it's real. It works. It exists, you know. So in the symbolic rendering of the 10 holy Sephirah and the 4 worlds, there's another important set of factors to be considered, and these are the 4 color scales classified by Crowley as the King scale assigned to Atziluth world, the Queen scale assigned to the Briatic world, and the Emperor scale assigned to the Yetziratic world, and the Empress scale assigned to the Asiatic world. The fourfold classification has a far-reaching significance in all matters and also in Western magic, which is largely based upon the Kabbalah. It is said to be under the presidency of the 4 letters of the Tetragrammaton, which is, the Tetragrammaton is just the 4-letter word of Jehovah, or Yod-He-Vav-He, the sacred name popularly rendered as Jehovah. In Hebrew, which has no vowels in its alphabet, this word is spelt YHVH, or some spell it JHVH, or according to the Hebrew names of these letters, Yod-He-Vav-He. The vowels are indicated in Hebrew by points inserted in and under the square letters of the script, which is written from right to left. These vowel points were only introduced at a comparatively recent date, and the older Hebrew scripts are unpointed so that the reader cannot see the pronunciation of any proper name for himself, but needs to have it communicated to him by someone who knows it, handed down verbally, basically. So the true mystical pronunciation of the Tetragrammaton is said to be one of the arcana of the mysteries. Also keep in mind, during his invocation, if you heard his invocation, I know you guys on YouTube did. I'm not sure people on the radio heard it, but when he talked about the whole holy letter Shin, right, it's basically pulling all of these energies together to become Christ-like. You're really invoking that Christ-like energy. You don't have to look at it in a religious way. You can look at it because all these systems reside in the tree, right? So you can look at it in a different way. You could look at it in just an energetic way, or if you want to go New Agey, right, you could look at it and that works too. You could look at it in the star seed way, or in a Buddha way, in any way you want to look at it. All of those energies that you're wanting to try to become exist in Tifereth, the enlightened human being, basically. So to the 4 letters of the name are allotted any fourfold mystical classification, and by means of their correspondences, we can trace all manner of relationships, and these are very important in practical occultism, as we'll see later. So 4 important fourfold divisions find a place under them, thus enabling us to see their relationships among themselves, and these are the 4 worlds of the Kabbalists, the 4 elements of the alchemists, the 4 classifications of the sign of the zodiac, and the planets into their triplicities employed by the astrologers, and the 4 suits of the tarot, which are used in divination. This 4-fold classification resembles the Rosetta Stone, which gave key to the Egyptian hieroglyphs, for on it were inscriptions in Egyptian and Greek, Greek being known. It was possible to work out the meaning of the corresponding Egyptian hieroglyphs through the Greek, because Greek was known. It is the method of arranging all these sets of factors on the tree which gives the real esoteric clue to each of the systems of practical occultism. Without this key, they have no philosophical basis and become matters of rule of thumb and superstition. It is for this reason that the initiated occultist will have nothing to do with the uninitiated fortune teller, for he knows that lacking this key, his system is valueless. Hence the vital importance of the tree in Western occultism. It is our basis, our standard of measurement, and our textbook. To understand a Sephiroth, then, we need to know firstly its primary correspondences in the four world. So what she's saying is to understand even one Sephiroth on this tree, you need to know how it relates to all four worlds of existence or emanation or whatever. Its secondary correspondences also we need to understand in the four systems of practical occultism mentioned above. And thirdly, any other correspondences we can by any means gather together in order that the testimony of many witnesses may yield the truth. Of this gathering of correspondences there can be no end. For the whole cosmos on all its planes corresponds in endless sequences. We're constantly adding and evolving to our knowledge, and if we are good students of occult science, that's going to happen. So no better simile than that of the card index system could possibly have been found. But yet again, we must remind the reader in this connection that the Kabbalah is as much a method of using the mind as a system of knowledge. If we have the knowledge without having acquired the Kabbalistic technique of mentation, it is of little use to us. In other words, if we understand the Kabbalah, but we don't put it into practice, then what good is it? In fact, we might go as far as to say that it's not possible to acquire any great degree of knowledge until this technique of the mind has been mastered. For it is not the conscious mind to which the tree appeals, but the subconscious. For the logical method of the Kabbalah is the logical method of dream association. But in the case of the Kabbalah, the dreamer is the racial subconsciousness, the oversoul of the peoples, the earth spirit. Into communion with this earth soul, the adept enters by means of meditation on the prescribed symbols. This is the real import of the tree and its correspondences. The highest of the four worlds, Atziluth, the plane of pure deity, is called by the Kabbalists the archetypal world. It is also called, in the somewhat clumsy translation of Mather's, the intellectual world. This term is misleading. It is only intellectual as we commonly understand the word as relating to the mind, the rational intellect, insofar as it is the realm of archetypal ideas. Just the world of archetypes. Let's just put it that way. Archetypes and archetypal energies. But these ideas are entirely abstract and are conceived by a function of consciousness quite outside the range of our mind as we know it. Therefore, to call this level the intellectual world is to mislead the reader, unless at the same time we say that by intellect we mean something quite different to what the dictionary means. This is a poor way of expressing our ideas. It is far better to coin a new term with a precise meaning than to use an old one in a misleading sense, especially as in the case of Atziluth, there is an excellent term already current, the term archetypal, which exactly describes it. Okay. So in the tarot, right, if you want to study all of the Sephiroth in the world of Atziluth, then you study you'll study the energies of the fire cards, 1 through 10, right? You'll also study the court cards of fire, because those are the parts of the soul in the world of Atziluth. Hope that makes sense. So the King of Wands is known as Fire of Fire. So it's the part of the soul, right, that's fire in the world of Atziluth. And in the occult world, it's just called Fire of Fire. That's the King of Wands. Like the Queen of Wands would be that part of the soul that corresponds into the Atziluthic world, right? So it'd be Water of Fire. That's how you simplify it, but really they have names for this. All of that other stuff is in the introduction video that I made. So the Atziluthic world is said by the Kabbalists to be under the presidency of the Yod, of the sacred name of the Tetragrammaton. We may justly deduce from this in any other fourfold system, whatever is said to be also under the presidency of Yod will refer to the Atziluthic, or purely spiritual aspect of that force or subject. And among other associations given by different authorities are the wand suit of the tarot pack, and the element of fire. I hope I said wands. Sometimes I speak and I'll say the wrong thing. I hope I said wands earlier, or the fire cards. It will be apparent to anyone who has any knowledge of occult matters that as soon as we know the element to which a symbol is assigned, we know a good deal. For it opens up all the ramifications of astrology for us, and we can trace out its astrological affinities through the triplicities of the zodiac and the affinities of the planets with them. As soon as we know what zodiacal and planetary associations exist, we are in a position to explore the correlated symbolism of any pantheon. For all the gods and goddesses of any system that the human mind has ever invented have astrological associations. The stories of their adventures are really parables of the workings of cosmic forces. Through the maze of symbolism, we could never hope to find our way unaided. But if we anchor the end of each chain of correspondences to a sephira on the tree, we have the clues that we need. All systems of esoteric thought, as well as popular theologies, attribute the construction and presidency of the different parts of the manifested universe to the meditation of the intelligent and purpose of beings, working under the instruction of deity. Modern thought has tried to escape from the implications of this concept by reducing manifestation to just matter of mechanics. It has not succeeded, and they still can't explain consciousness or dark matter. And there are signs that it is not far from the point when it will perceive mind as being at the root of all form. Mainly P. Hall says that too. Look, our science, the science that we have out there is amazing, right? Like, we do have science that explains all of the existence that we can perceive with our senses in such a cool, classified way, right? But they cannot explain consciousness. They cannot explain dark matter. And they can say, oh, look at the Fibonacci sequence and look at how everything comes into manifestation. It's so beautiful and wonderful. But why? And what's behind that? Right? Well, we don't know. Dark matter. Well, what's dark matter? Well, we've had 5 different theories, but we still haven't figured it out. You see what I mean? Where this is kind of like where the right and the left brain come together, where spirituality and science need to come together and start understanding a higher principle here. We shouldn't get rid of science, and we shouldn't get rid of spirituality. And then the middle pillar, we need both of them in order for us to evolve, right? The concepts of the ancient wisdom may be crude from the standpoint of modern philosophy, but we are forced to admit that the causative force behind manifestation is more akin to its nature to mind than to matter. To go a step further and personify the different types of force is a legitimate analogy, provided we realize the entity which is the soul of the force may differ as much in kind and degree from our minds as our bodies differ in type and scale from the bodies of the planets. We shall be nearer an understanding of nature if we look for mind in the background than if we refuse to admit that the visible universe has an invisible framework. Yeah, tell Neil deGrasse Tyson that, but deep in his heart he knows it. The visible universe, everything that you've studied and all this wonderful science that you've brought us, has an invisible framework to it. It has a blueprint. The ether of the physicist is closer akin to mind than to matter. Time and space, as understood by the modern philosopher, are more like modes of consciousness than linear measures. The initiates of the ancient wisdom made no bones about their philosophy. They took each factor in nature and personified it, gave it a name, and built up a symbolic figure to represent it. Just as kind of like British artists have, by their collective efforts, produced a standard Britannia. A female figure with a shield charged with a Union Jack and a lion at her feet, a trident in her hand and a helmet on her head, and the sea in the background. Analyzing this figure as we would a Kabbalistic symbol, we realize that these individual symbols and the complex glyph have each a significance. The various crosses which make up the Union Jack refer to the 4 races united in the UK. The helmet is that of Minerva, and the trident is that of Neptune. The lion would need a character to himself to elucidate his symbolism. In fact, An occult glyph is more akin to a coat of arms than anything else, and the person who builds up a glyph goes to work in the same way as a herald designing a coat of arms. For in heraldry, every symbol has its exact meaning, and these are combined into the coat of arms that represents the family and affiliations of the man who bears it and tells us his station in life. A magical figure is the coat of arms of the force that it represents. Remember that. So a magical figure is the coat of arms of the force it represents. Think about what I said earlier too, right? Like, a magical figure is the coat of arms of the force that it represents. The Pentagon. What force does that represent? After everything that we've read, what force does that represent? Gabura, severity. It's right there in front of you. Why, then, if this stuff isn't real, would the greatest country in the world make their military building into a Pentagon? For no reason, just because it looks cool? Because there's a force behind it. That's why. They needed that symbol. They used it to their benefit. And then when we got attacked in 9/11, it was very obvious that they tried to attack the Pentagon, but it wasn't successful. I mean, it got nicked, but it wasn't very successful, was it? Just like the magician, and just like the police, let's just look at the police. Let's look at all of the martial forces in the world. They use a star, right? Most of them. A lot of police will use the five-pointed star. Okay. I think I'm getting a little bit of lag here. The magical figures are built up to represent the different modes of the manifestation of cosmic force in its different types and on its different levels. They are given names, and the initiate thinks of them as persons, not troubling himself about their metaphysical foundations. Consequently, for all practical purposes, they are persons. For whatever they may be in actual fact, they have been personalized, and thought forms have been built upon the astral plane to represent them. These being charged with force are the nature of artificial elementals, but the force with which they are charged being cosmic. They are much more than what we ordinarily imply when we speak of artificial elementals, and we assign them to the angelic kingdom and call them angels or archangels according to their grade. But an angelic being then may be defined as a cosmic force whose apparent vehicle of manifestation to psychic consciousness is a form built up by the human imagination. In practical occultism, these forms are built up with great care, and the most elaborate attention to the details of the symbolism are there and are used to evoke the force required. And anyone who has had experience of their use will agree that they are peculiarly effectual for the purposes for which they are designed. By holding the magical image and vibrating the traditional name assigned to that image, remarkable phenomena are obtained. And I can tell you through my life, they have been. That's why I've backed off of certain things that I've done and just stuck to basics so much because of the effects of it, right? So think of magic in a sense, like just like when you see that spiraling force in all of nature. When you invoke a force into your life, first by observing the symbol or creating it or vibrating it, it has to come into manifestation into your life through natural law. This is why it takes a lot of wisdom and understanding in the self before you should even get into any kind of advanced stuff. Because it does have an effect, obviously, right? So as we've already noted, it is necessary to use the mental techniques of the Kabbalists in order to get any sense out of the Kabbalah. This formulation of the image and vibration of the name is designed to put the student in touch with the forces behind each sphere of the tree. And when he comes into touch in this way, his consciousness is illuminated and his nature's energized by the force thus contacted, and he obtains remarkable illuminations from his contemplation of the symbols. These illuminations are not generalized floodings of light, as in the case of the Christian mystic, but a specific energizing and illumination according to the sphere that's opened up. For example, Hod gives understanding of sciences. Yesod gives understandings of the life force and its tidal modes of functioning. When Hod is contacted, we become filled with enthusiasm and energy for research. When Yesod is contacted, we enter deeply into psychic consciousness and touch the hidden life forces of the earth and our own nature. These are matters of experience, and those who have used the method know what it yields in them. Whatever may be the rational foundations of the system, as an empirical method, it yields results. If we want to study a Sephirah, in other words, if we want to investigate the aspect of nature to which it refers, we only study it intellectually and meditate upon it. But we try to get into psychic and intuitive touch with its influence and sphere. In order to accomplish this, we always start at the top and try to get into spiritual touch with the aspect of deity which emanated the sphere and manifests inside of it or in it. If this is not done, the forces belonging to that sphere or Sephirah on the elemental levels may get out of hand and cause difficulties. Starting under the presidency of the divine name, however, no evil can enter. So having adored the Creator and Sustainer of all under his holy name in the sphere we are investigating, we next will invoke the Archangel of the sphere, the mighty spiritual being in whom we personify the forces that built up that level of evolution and continue to function in the corresponding aspect of nature. We ask for the blessing of the Archangel and beg that he will bid the order of angels assigned to that sphere that they shall be friendly and helpful towards us in the realm of nature in which they function. By the time we have done this, we shall be thoroughly tuned into the keynote of that sphere or Sephirah that we're working with, that we are investigating, and be ready to follow out the ramifications of the correspondences of that Sephirah and its cognate symbols. Approached in this way, we shall find the association chains far richer in symbolism than we have ever believed to be possible. For the subconscious mind has been stirred and one of its many chambers of imagery thrown open to the exclusion of all others. The association chains that rise into consciousness should therefore be free from any admixture of extraneous ideas and true to type. First, we review in our minds all the possible symbols that we can recollect, and as these present themselves to our consciousness, we try and see their importance and bearing upon the secrets of that sphere under investigation. But we do not try too hard, for if we concentrate upon a symbol and strain at it, as it were, we shall close the meshes of the tenuous veil that shields the subconscious mind. In these investigations, half meditation, half reverie, we want to work on the borders of consciousness and subconsciousness so as to induce that which is subconscious to cross the threshold and come within our reach. As we proceed thus following out the ramifications of the association chains, we shall find that a running comment of intuition accompanies the process, and after the experiment has been repeated 2 or 3 times, we shall feel that we know the Sephirah in a peculiarly, I can't say that word, let's just say interesting, intimate way, and that we feel at home there, and that we feel of its is quite different to that of the other Sephirah, which we have not yet worked with. What she's talking about here is doing actual work, like practical work with the Kabbalah, working with the spheres, or doing path workings, or meditating, or investigating, or invoking these spheres, right? In a way, so that we can understand the energies. So we shall also find that some Sephirah are more congenial to us than others, and that we get better results when working with them than we do with the uncongenial ones, where the association chains keep on breaking the doors of our subconsciousness, resolutely refuse to open to our knocking. One student of mine could do excellent meditations on Bina, Saturn, and Tifereth, the Redeemer, but didn't get on at all well with Geburah, or Severity and Mars. I shall never forget my own experience with the first attempts I made at this method. I was working on the 32nd path in the path of Saturn, uniting Malkuth and Yesod, a very difficult and treacherous path. In my horoscope, Saturn is not well aspected, and I have often experienced this opposing influence in my affairs. But after I had succeeded in treading the path of Saturn out into the indigo darkness of the unseen until the moon of Yesod rose in purple and silver over the horizon, I felt that I had received the initiation of Saturn, that he was no longer inimical to me, but a friend who, though candid and stern, was to be trusted to protect me from mistakes and rash judgments. I realized his function as the tester and not the antagonist or avenger. A lot of people give Saturn a bad rap, like it's the devil or something, and really, it's just trying to keep you straight. I realized him as time with his scythe, but knew also that why he was called in Hebrew Shabbathol, rest, for he giveth his beloved sleep. And after that, the 32nd path was open to me, not only on the tree, but in life. For the forces and problems symbolized by that path and its correspondences had become harmonized in my soul. From these two brief examples, it will be seen that the meditations upon the tree form a most practical and exact symbol of mystical development, and one that is peculiarly valuable in that it is equilibrated, for the different aspects of manifestation are, as it were, dissected out and dealt with in turn, nothing being neglected. And by the time we have trodden all the paths on the tree, we shall have learnt that the lessons of death and the devil, as well as the lessons of the angel and the high priest. Oof. Next, we'll get into all of the paths on the tree, right? See, I thought that was a kind of a cool chapter. I see the rest note as the 13th. I see the rest note as the 13th in music. What are you guys talking about? What'd I miss? Your police used a 7-pointed star. Well, they probably don't know that star corresponds with Venus. But I would go see if your police are more involved with nature. Hell, I don't know. 5 is Venus. 5 is Gabora. 7. Yeah, 7 is Venus. Isis. There you go. What's up, Dale? Yeah. Yeah, I mean, like this is a cool, it's kind of like playing Destiny, man. You look at the whole game and you're like, man, there's so many worlds to explore and systems and weapons and stuff. And then once you get involved with it, you know, this is why I say, like, this is why a lot of schools, once they introduce people to magic and stuff, they don't just do they don't even try to do what we're talking about. They just give you the book, the Mystical Qabalah that we're reading. And we're like, well, first, let's learn the 4 elements. Let's learn what they're about. First, let's learn how to say and write, at least say and write all the Hebrew letters. First, let's understand all of the astrological signs, their elements they correspond to, you know, if they're fixed, mutable, or whatever, if they're positive, negative. Let's learn what's called the first knowledge lecture in the Golden Dawn. This is all the stuff that you learn. And then once you got that down, you learn the second knowledge lecture, and you start getting into more of the angelic names and writing them out in Hebrew and things like that, and alchemy, the first alchemical symbols. I'm just using this as an example. So this stuff is amazing how it kind of all comes together as you take the time to learn it, right? Because I was overwhelmed with it at first, but now as I've come to understand a lot of it, I'm not by any means an adept. I'm still just practicing magic, you know, and doing, on the other hand, doing out-of-body stuff. So it may be years before I even get close to an adept. If I don't, I don't. But Um, it's such a beautiful system, man, of spirituality. It really is. It's not what people think at all. Like most mainstream people don't see it, even what I'm talking about, as a system of spiritual development. It's like magic is, it's got so many damn connotations. It's got so many bad connotations to it. But once you understand, like, take this, I was going to use this card, for example, like this card. So the the 6 of swords. So we know the swords correspond with the air element, right? But now you understand why that cross is there, right? And that rose. The 6 corresponds with Tiferet on the middle pillar. And that energy is the balancing force of all 5 of those energies around it. And those are the Sephiroth, also the planets that correspond with them. Right? And even the colors that Crowley put in the card represent the colors of air and where that exists in the 4 worlds too. And, I'm not going to get into the stars or even that. If you look real close, you can see like the downward pointed kind of pentagram. It's in the background, and then he hides like, Mercury and Aquarius in there. But if you really start to understand this, you'll go back and look at the Arthur Edward Waite deck and be like, oh, he did hide a lot of stuff, but he did put it in there, like the tree. If you put the glyph of the tree behind each card, right, you'll see the corresponding energies and how he kind of hid stuff that's going on. Especially not every card, but most of them, and especially the trumps, So the number cards, of course, and all the aces reside in Kether. But it's just I don't know. It's just a beautiful system. I love it. I'm passionate about it, and it's one of the only things in my life that I haven't let go, because I burn hard, and when I burn hard, I burn out too. So pretty much everything that I've ever chased in my life, I burn out from it. Whether first it was, sports, chasing women and sports, that was it, burnout. Then it was MMA and jiu-jitsu, burnout. Playing guitar, burn that out. Electronic music, not quite burn out from that, I still love it. But this, exploring consciousness, this world of magical exploration, I guess you could say. I hate that word magic. I wish they'd call it something else. Has been something that has stuck with me over the years. I love it. Absolutely love it. It's lasted longer than anything. And the more I study it, the more I look into it, this form of spirituality and conscious exploration, the more I get into it, the more questions I have and the more fire that I feel inside me. So I don't know. I have to express it, and that's why I'm here. And I thank you guys for coming out tonight and this week. Jess is going to be on in 40 minutes. She wanted to go back to, I wanted her to come on right after me, but she was already used to going on an hour after me, so she should be on tonight too. I have the elements tattooed on my right arm too. Do you? I have a pinnacle tattooed on my right hand. Really? That's cool. I regret the tattoos I have, except even the one I have of my son's initials on my arm. I kind of regret that one. I got a tattoo of tap out on my leg. I don't regret this tattoo, the Voidwalker logo, but I might when I'm 60. I might go, damn it, But right now, no, I don't regret it. All right, let's get up on out of here. Hope you guys have a good weekend. And please, if you can, support the Fringe FM. I'm really thinking hard about just doing this more podcast style and just going once a week, and then so that I can focus more on what I'm doing and not be so scatterbrained and make better content, and then slowly develop back into a few nights a week if things get better, you know. I'm not saying I'm going to do that. I'm just thinking about it. I'm afraid I would miss you guys too much, but it would be the practical thing for me to do to change things for me in my life. So I will consult the spirit in the tree and figure this out. Hopefully everything will work out all right. Damn, there was something else I was going to talk about. No, everybody's orders are on the way. The ones that got their cards, and Tabitha, your T-shirts are on the way too. The ones that were back ordered, those are on the way. If you can support the Fringe FM, please do so. And I love you. You guys, good night. Sweet dreams. Thanks for coming out. Have a good weekend.